Hello and welcome back to my review of the Real Grade Full Armor Unicorn Gundam. In the last part we went over the individual parts of the kit, which there were a lot of, and this time we're going to be actually strapping all these weapons onto the unicorn itself. I actually made a mistake in the previous part when I said that this tab on the bazooka was kind of useless. It's actually going to help the bazooka stay in its harness by tabbing in to the little hole right there. Takes a bit to line it up, but after you do, it is a very solid connection. After attaching both bazookas, you're going to want to attach the shield onto the back as well. So the anchor points for the shields are actually slightly different. So this is the one that's going to be sliding onto the arm. It's going to use an additional attachment piece, whereas this one is going to be going on the back. You see the main difference is here. There's going to be an extra tab, which will help this stick onto the backpack. But first things first, you're going to want to change the shield into its normal unicorn mode. And then you should be able to tab it in very easily onto the backpack piece. Like so. As mentioned before, the boosters will have these joints here, which will allow you to plug in this stand to help it stand on the ground. And after you plug it in, over here is a very simple mechanism to plug it into the backpack itself. And with the backpack on, you can see that the full armor unicorn is starting to take shape. The beam magnum will have no problem being slotted into the hand and having the cover piece cover it up to give it the illusion of being held. The beam magnum has no problem being held by the hand, and I must say I'm very impressed by how stable the kit is, no doubt thanks to these stands here for the boosters. These missile launchers will attach very easily onto the leg itself through the peg here. Now on the normal Real Grade Unicorn Gundam, that part is going to be filled with this little inner frame piece. So the main difference between the body of the Real Grade Unicorn and the Real Grade Full Armor Unicorn is that the instructions are going to tell you specifically not to put this piece on the inner frame of the outer leg. The beam javelin also has a gimmick with the shield. If you take it in from its storage mode, open it up a little, take this additional attachment piece and attach it here into the peg, and then close it down like so. You're going to have this extra attachment point that you can use in conjunction with the shield. So you're going to attach this into the beam Gatling guns, and then stack one of the shields on top of it. And you can also fold open the beam javelin and equip it with effect parts for a very, very intimidating sandwich of destruction. So the way you attach the beam Gatling gun is with another attachment point. You're just going to be attaching these onto the arm, clipping it into the slots here, like so. And then you can kind of slot it into the beam Gatling gun. And the sandwich of death is going to be attached in a very similar manner using the attachment point. Though this is a bit more difficult just because there is a little bit more clutter. As you can see, even with the heavy arm armaments, the Unicorn Gundam is still able to hold a pose. The kit itself is very solid, the joints are very tight, so it has no problem holding on to its very heavy machinery. It does come with the same action-based attachment point as the regular Real Grade Unicorn, and it will just slide into the bottom of the unicorn, like so. Free from the confines of gravity, the full armor Unicorn Gundam is definitely a lot more poseable than you'd expect from a model kit with this much bulk on it. But at the end of the day, it's not going to be pulling off any splits or poses, but this is definitely the most poseable version of the full armor Unicorn Gundam that you're going to get. I'm really trying to be creative here, but the kit just kind of poses itself. At the end of the day, it is just kind of a brick, but a slightly more mobile brick. And while up in the air is where it can find most of its posability, it's also where a lot of its problems show up, like pieces on the backpack falling off, and of course, that very flimsy action point attachment point. Seems very questionable and very lazy by Bandai to not include something that attaches onto the backpack itself. As the rear grade unicorn is able to transform between destroy mode and unicorn mode, so is the full armor unicorn version. I must say, this seems quite novel and is kind of thing that I'm going to do for the review and then never do again. So now for some of my final thoughts as well as pros and cons on the kit. I think the best way to describe this kit is it is very impressive. It's very impressive to look at. I know that there is also a high grade full armor unicorn, but that is split between the destroy mode and unicorn mode, whereas this kit is all in one. The kit can transform between the unicorn and destroy mode. It also has a lot more details and a bit more weapons, which I think makes it look a lot better and definitely more worth it despite the slight bump in price tag. I think that ties very well into its biggest strength, which is the fact that this is a very good looking kit. If you like the design of the full armor unicorn, I think this is the best interpretation of it. The master grade has some engineering issues, mainly in that the kit itself just isn't that great. The perfect grade is very expensive, being a premium Bandai and sold separately from the perfect grade unicorn itself. So again, this being just $40-50 is a much more accessible version of the full armor unicorn. I think in terms of cons, a lot of these cons can be ignored once you get it down in a solid pose, because a lot of the cons has to do with the fact that pieces of the backpack and armor kind of fall off. I know I said the kit is very stable, but that mainly refers to the unicorn itself. A lot of the armaments, especially the bazookas in the back, the head here tends to fall off, as well as the magazines at the bottom. They're not attached very stably. They kind of wiggle out. Makes it posing very frustrating, but once you get them in, they do stay in to hold a pose. It also goes for the boosters in the back. You know, they're very large, very impressive, but the attachment point isn't that stable, and when you're posing them, it does tend to fall off. The biggest gripe against this kit is the fact that the action-based connector isn't that great. It feels very lazy of Bandai to use the same attachment point as the regular Unicorn Gundam, just because that is designed for a single mobile suit, whereas this has a massive backpack. The way the attachment point kind of works is that it slides onto the bottom of the real grade unicorn, and then it's kind of counterbalanced by the fact that the backpack is very heavy, and that's kind of how it holds a pose. It's not super stable, but at the end of the day, I have had this posed on the action base for a few months now, holding a simple action pose, and it hasn't fallen off or anything. So I think that barring shaking your shelf or something like that, it will be able to hold a nice solid pose, which is more than I can say for the master grade and perfect grade version of the same kit. I think another minor con is the fact that this is the green version of the unicorn. I think some people really like the red version of the unicorn because it has that traditional blue, white, red Gundam color. So if you want to have this full armor unicorn in red, you're going to have to either paint it or just buy a separate retail version of the real grade unicorn. And when you're building it, don't forget to not include the side piece on the leg. That way you can attach in the hand grenades. And other small little nitpick is the fact that this doesn't come as many weapons as the master grade. The master grade has a full set of beam javelin, shield, beam gatling, and beam magnum for each arm. Whereas this, you're a bit more rationed. You only have one beam javelin as well as one beam magnum. But I think that having it, be a bit asymmetrical does make it look a lot better. Plus, I'm not really sure that having it symmetrical with so many weapons would really do it any good. So I think that overall, this is a very good kit. Anyone who's a fan of the full armor unicorn design should definitely have this kit, even if it is the green version and not the red version. So yeah, thank you very much for watching my review. Please comment, like, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time, where I'll be going over just the unicorn itself.